You know that weird sensation when the air changes before anyone speaks? Like the room itself knows something you don't? At 9:02 a.m. I felt that shift, not a second earlier, not a second late. The door clicked shut behind me, and I walked into conference room 6B, expecting validation. My name is Elena Morris. I'm 34, and for the last 5 years, I gave Solvex Analytics every ounce of strategy, grace, and midnight energy I had. I led crisis turnarounds, closed the Westfield portfolio when no one else could, and brought in 5 legacy clients from our biggest competitor. I wasn't asking for a miracle, just a raise. Anyway, if you're watching this, tap a like or say hi in the comments. Not for me, for anyone who's ever walked into a room thinking one thing and walked out as someone else. I took my seat. Helen sat across from me, her posture stiff but familiar. We used to get coffee together every Monday. She helped me through my divorce. Next to her was Bryce, the new VP, tall, slick, overly confident. He hadn't even been here a full quarter. "Let's begin," he said, flipping a folder open like it was nothing. I waited for the usual preamble, performance, achievements, maybe even a compliment. "Elena," he said evenly, "there's been a realignment in client strategy. Effective immediately, you'll transition to the role of client associate." Silence. I blinked. Client. Associate? That was 3 levels below my current role. Helen cleared her throat. "You'll be reporting to Denise from now on." My jaw twitched. Denise was my trainee 2 years ago. She still asked me how to spell liaison. Bryce slid a sealed envelope across the table. "This isn't personal," he said, without emotion. "It's just strategy." Inside was a new salary, 35% less. My fingers curled around the edge of the table. I felt heat rise to my ears, but my voice stayed level. "I see," I said. "That's all." I stood slowly, smiled at no one. And as I walked out, I left something behind in that chair. Something like belief. Or maybe just the idea that loyalty meant anything anymore. I don't remember walking out of the building, but I remember the moment I collapsed into my car, shut the door, and finally let the tears come. It was 9:32 a.m., just half an hour after the meeting, but time had lost its shape. The sobs came sharp, silent at first, then uncontrollable. The kind of crying you save for parking garages. The kind of crying that steals your breath and blurs your rearview mirror. I gripped the steering wheel like it was the only thing tethering me to the earth. My navy blouse, so carefully chosen, felt like a joke now. My hands shook as I reached for the tissue compartment, but I missed. Everything was trembling. I had held it together in that room. I had nodded. I had stood. Now I shattered. And in that shattering, my mind grabbed for something to keep from falling completely. Petros. 2 years ago. The Petros crisis hit just before year-end. The client threatened to pull out. No one else could stabilize them. I flew across the country on 45 minutes' notice, slept 3 hours in 2 days, and brought them back with a new multi-million-dollar plan that turned their numbers around in 6 weeks. No one else even wanted to touch that project. Westfield. Last spring. My son's birthday. I had promised him cupcakes, balloons, a science show. But Westfield's data servers crashed 2 hours before their quarterly review. I missed the candles, the cake. The first time he cried about it, he didn't even raise his voice. That made it worse. And now I was replaced? My phone buzzed. A message from Kara, one of the junior associates I had mentored last year. "Hey, Elena, is it true you're off all the VIP accounts? Just heard from someone in ops. Thought it was a mistake." I stared at the screen. I hadn't resigned. I hadn't even emailed anyone yet, but they had already reassigned everything, quietly, behind my back, without a conversation, without a warning, just erased. I didn't reply. I couldn't. I leaned my head back against the seat, closed my eyes, and for the first time in 5 years, I felt like I didn't exist inside that building anymore. The seatbelt light dinged, but there was nothing left to buckle, only pieces, and one question echoing in the silence. If this is what 5 years earns you, what was I even holding on for? By 11:15 a.m., I was still sitting in the parking garage with the engine off and my thoughts louder than the silence. I hadn't started the car. I hadn't called anyone. I was just suspended, floating between disbelief and something darker. My phone buzzed again, this time with a notification from Helen. Helen! The subject line read, Internal Transition Planning, Approved Timeline. I assumed it was a courtesy copy. Maybe she was second-guessing what had happened. Or maybe, deep down, I still wanted to believe she'd explain herself. But as I opened it, something didn't fit. Attached was a forwarded email thread, not meant for me. In fact, it wasn't addressed to me at all. It looked like something from earlier that morning, between Bryce, Helen, and someone named Dale S., a director from HQ in New York. The line that made my chest tighten was this: we finally neutralized her hold on the accounts. Helen confirmed she won't push back. Neutralized? Like I was some kind of threat? And Helen, my former confidant, the woman who had cried on my couch after her breakup, who once called me her work soulmate, had confirmed she wouldn't resist. I scrolled down. Another reply. This one from Dale. Perfect. With her out, we can centralize control under Bryce. Tell Helen she's done well managing the handoff. No risk of emotional fallout. She says Elena doesn't suspect a thing. Suspect? I felt my skin crawl. Then, the worst part, a single line from Bryce that turned my stomach. Let's keep messaging neutral. Don't refer to her by name. Call her the asset moving forward. Not Elena, not even she, just the asset. I had given this company loyalty, strategy, leadership, heart, and now I was a code name in a spreadsheet, a piece of furniture they quietly moved out of the way. I didn't realize my hands were shaking until I dropped the phone in my lap. I looked at the screen, then at the sky through the windshield. The morning haze had lifted. Sunlight was starting to stream in through the dirty concrete slats. I should have deleted the email, should have let it go. But I didn't. I hit forward, to myself, and then to one other person, someone whose name hadn't come up once in those messages. Derek Lynn, Director of Client Relations. My old ally, just in case. Because if I was an asset, they were about to learn just how powerful one could be when it's activated. By 12:28 p.m., I had stopped crying. There's a stillness that comes after betrayal. A kind of muted clarity, like the world hasn't changed. But you have. The air feels heavier, quieter. Even your heartbeat starts to sound deliberate. I drove home, showered, changed into a soft blue sweater that didn't belong to the version of me they erased. Then I sat down at my kitchen counter with my laptop and a cup of coffee I wouldn't drink. I opened a blank message. To Bryce. Helen, HR@solvex.com, BCC, R. Campbell at westfieldglobal.com, Jasmine Hu at petroscorp.com, O. Langley at coretrax.org, Clients Ops at rexmedical.com, Arnaud Lemaitre at solanova.eu, subject resignation body. I will not be returning. Elna Morris. That was it. No exclamation points, no explanations, no fury. Just a scalpel in the shape of a sentence. I hit send, then closed the laptop, slowly, like sealing something shut, something final. I knew it would start a ripple. I didn't do it for revenge, not yet. I did it to reclaim the only thing I had left. Choice. The BCCs weren't an act of drama, they were, in my head, just a professional courtesy. A quiet heads up for 5 clients who trusted me with their systems, crises, and secrets. They deserved to know I wasn't in the room anymore. That's all I thought I was doing. But what I didn't realize, not in that moment, was that I had included Helen in the to field. My fingers had auto-filled her name. It was muscle memory. Years of late-night syncs and project notes. A ghost habit. And as soon as she saw the BCC list, she'd know. She'd know exactly what I had done. At 12:32 p.m., my phone buzzed again. It was a message from Helen. "Elena, can we talk? Please call me." I didn't open it. Didn't need to. Silence was the answer now. I placed my phone face down on the counter, watched the steam curl off the untouched coffee. For 5 years, I had been the fixer, the one who stayed up late to hold it all together. But now I was done patching up broken things that were never meant to serve me. This wasn't revenge, not yet. This was repositioning. And they were about to learn. Some exits don't slam doors. Some exits whisper. And still, leave an earthquake behind. By 7:00 a.m., my phone was already vibrating like a warning bell. I had set no alarms the night before. I hadn't needed one. I barely slept. My mind kept replaying the email, the silent send, the unintended inclusion of Helen, and what it might have triggered. But nothing, absolutely nothing, prepared me for what I saw when I rolled over, blinked once, and reached for the phone. 38 notifications. I sat up in bed. The light outside hadn't fully broken through the curtains yet, but the screen was already burning through the fog in my brain. First came the texts. "Bryce, Elena, let's discuss this. Please don't make rash moves. Happy to set up a meeting." "Helen, you blindsided us. This isn't how I thought things would go. I never wanted this. HR. We've received your resignation. Please confirm your last working day for records. Unknown number. Is it true you're leaving Solvex?" Then the clients. R. Campbell. Westfield. We were not informed. If Elna is no longer handling our account, consider the agreement suspended until further notice. Jasmine Hu, Petros Corp. I'll say it plainly, if you're not our lead anymore, we are reevaluating vendor options. Please confirm this is some kind of mistake. Owen Langley, Coretrax. Call me the moment you're up. I don't trust what they're saying internally. My breath caught. I hadn't expected it to move this fast, or this hard. I tapped into my inbox, now overflowing with follow-ups, flags, and CC threads I wasn't even supposed to be part of anymore. Then came the image, attached to a message from Arnaud Lemaitre, the COO of Solanova, my most demanding and most loyal account. Subject line. Just so you're aware, the body had only one line. We only work with people who treat their partners like people, not assets. Below that was a photo. It showed the Solanova headquarters in Paris, their assistant holding a contract halfway through a printer tray. It bore the heading and logo of Talos Strategies. Talos, our most direct rival. I had turned down 2 offers from them just last year. The implication was clear. Solanova wasn't just walking away. They were already re-signing with someone else. I stared at the image, then back at the screen, where another unread message blinked into view. CEO, Solvex, Elena, please let's talk. Today, urgently. Before this spreads further, it was surreal, watching everything shift so violently, so quickly. I had expected some fallout, but not this. Not the feeling that the ground was sliding under their feet, and I wasn't the one falling. I wasn't rejoicing, not yet. There was too much at stake, too much unknown. But one thing was clear. Their version of the story had collapsed the moment I left the room. And now, with each beep of my phone, I wasn't the one being erased. They were, by 8:40 a.m. I had read, reread, and archived over 20 emails, but when the screen lit up with a direct call from Franklin Dwyer, I froze. Solvex's CEO didn't just call people, he summoned them. And when he did, the conversation was rarely a conversation, it was an outcome. I answered. "Elna," he began. Voice dipped in syrup. "I won't waste your time. What happened yesterday shouldn't have happened. You deserved better." It was almost comical, hearing this from a man who'd never once addressed me by name in a meeting. "I want to fix this," he continued. "We're offering you a new title, Director of Client Trust. You'd report directly to me." My jaw clenched. He wasn't finished. "There's a one-time bonus, a generous package, clean PR. We'll issue a joint statement if you like. You'll sign a brief NDA, just to protect all parties. You return. And we reset. No Bryce. No noise." He was painting a golden escape hatch, but it was coated in varnish too fresh to trust. "I'm flattered," I said flatly. Franklin chuckled. "Elna, come on. You've built something incredible here. You're a symbol to our clients. I'd hate to lose that." "Lose that. Not me. Lose the symbol. Lose the shield." I took a breath. If this offer had come before I walked into that meeting yesterday, I would have jumped, maybe even cried. There was a pause. "But now," I said, "I've made my peace with stepping away." Franklin's voice dipped cold. "Well, that's disappointing." "No," I replied, "it's just overdue." We hung up. Silence returned, but it felt different now. No more doubt, just certainty. Then, barely 5 minutes later, an email buzzed in. From Aaron Wade. Subject: "Quick connect today? Heard about the shift at Solvex. Want to talk?" 4:00 p.m., our Manhattan office. Interested? Aaron Wade, VP of Strategy at Talos Strategies, a powerhouse. We'd met 2 years ago at a fintech summit. She'd remembered my daughter's name and my allergies. I clicked the calendar invite attached, a corner office meeting room at Talos HQ. I didn't respond right away. Instead, I grabbed my old leather notebook, the one with every major account detail I'd ever compiled. Not digital, not shareable, just pen on paper. I ran my fingers across the cover. Inside were years of client crises, solutions, trust points, things Solvex could never replace with a job title. I opened the fridge, stared inside, closed it again, no appetite. Then I opened my closet, changed into something neutral, strong. I wasn't going for a job interview. I was going to evaluate power. And this time, I would not be the one negotiating from below. By 10:15 a.m., I was already halfway across Midtown, slipping into a small cafe with no nameplate, just frosted windows and the smell of ambition steeped in espresso. I scanned the room. He was already there. Micah Hale, Nexus Vice President of Strategic Development. The first time I met him, 3 years ago, he tried to poach one of my core clients over drinks at a fintech conference in Miami. The second time, he underbid us by 10% and still lost the deal. The third time, I beat him before the pitch even left his mouth. We hadn't spoken since, but now he stood up to shake my hand. "Elena," he said, voice warmer than I expected. "This is long overdue." I smiled, polite but measured. "What's the occasion?" He gestured to the seat across from him. "An opportunity for both of us." I sat. The waitress came over and placed 2 glasses of sparkling water on the table. Micah didn't order. Neither did I. "We've been watching what's happening over at Solvex," he began. "And frankly, I'm amazed it took them this long to collapse from the inside." I didn't react. He continued. "Here's what we're offering. Senior Vice President of Client Growth. Full autonomy. You build the team. You lead the vision. And most importantly, you get to shape the future of what relationship management looks like." I tilted my head, fingers laced. "Why now?" Micah didn't flinch. 3 reasons, he said, holding up fingers. 1, you're the best in the business, and we're not the only ones who think so. He reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a small leather folder. Inside were 3 printed emails. I leaned in. Each email was from one of my former clients: Petros, Rex Medical, Westfield. All three were asking the same thing. If Elena joins Nexus, please notify us immediately. We are willing to transition our accounts. Micah slid the folder toward me. 2, he said. You've already built the loyalty. We're just offering the infrastructure to let you do it again, without internal sabotage. I said nothing, but inside, something realigned. I hadn't chased those clients. I hadn't lobbied. I hadn't whispered or suggested. They came on their own. They chose me. It wasn't about the title. It was about the trust. And the third reason? I asked quietly. Micah leaned forward. Because you're done settling, and it shows. I exhaled slowly. Everything slowed down in that moment. The chatter around us blurred into background. My thoughts sharpened into a single point of clarity. He was right. For years. I had let strategy override instinct. I'd accepted the chain of command, smiled through slights, picked my battles. But now the battlefield was mine. I picked up the leather folder, ran my thumb along the edge. Do I get to bring my own team? I asked. He smiled. You get to build it. A beat passed. I need 48 hours, I said. Micah nodded. You've got 24, and a private office waiting. No pressure, of course. We both laughed, but he meant it. As I stood to leave, he added, By the way, Talos called me this morning. Aaron Wade's scouting too. You're the storm now. Elena, everyone's watching to see where it lands. I turned at the door, half amused. Then let them watch. By 11:05 a.m., I was back in the Solvex lobby, not as an employee, not as a guest, just a woman who knew exactly what she came for. The receptionist looked up nervously. Ms. Varela, you're here to see someone? No, I said gently. Just collecting my things. Her eyes darted to a monitor. I knew they'd all been briefed. The elevator ride to the 12th floor felt surreal. Same music, same scent, same flickering panel light above floor 11. The only thing that had changed was me. My desk sat untouched. Bryce hadn't reassigned it yet, maybe for optics, or maybe because he assumed I'd crawl back. As I packed, Helen appeared in the reflection of my screen. Elena! Her voice was quieter than usual, not performative, almost guilty. I didn't turn. I'm busy. Helen! She stepped closer. I didn't know what Bryce was planning. I swear, You signed off. I interrupted, now facing her. You confirmed. I saw the email. Her face fell, as if the pretense finally collapsed under its own weight. I panicked, she said. He told me if I didn't cooperate, I'd be next. I nodded once. Then you chose, so did I. She didn't speak again. Bryce showed up 5 minutes later, wearing a smug neutrality. Elena, do you have a minute? I zipped up my tote bag slowly. I have exactly 5. He gestured toward the small conference room with opaque glass walls. We sat. He didn't bother with small talk. I'll be honest, the fallout's been messy, he began. Clients are restless. The board has questions. I'd like to find a solution that works for both sides. There it was. Diplomacy, post-damage. I set a thin manila folder on the table. Let's talk about that solution. He opened it. A single-page contract. My original employment agreement. Dated 5 years ago. Highlighted in yellow. Section 12B. Non-compete clause waiver. I spoke before he finished reading. In the event of a demotion or salary reduction not agreed upon by the employee in writing, the non-compete clause is void effective immediately. He looked up. Which means, I continued, I'm free to consult, build, or even accept clients in your exact verticals. Legally, no NDA, no silence clause. Bryce's jaw clenched. This wasn't flagged. Your legal team should read slower. He leaned back, recalibrating. Elena, this isn't a fight you want. I smiled. Bryce, I already won it. You're just arriving late to the scoreboard. Silence settled between us. I stood to leave. Before reaching the door, I turned back one last time. Oh, and just so we're clear, I said calmly, this wasn't about revenge. This was about reminding people that you don't get to erase value and expect silence in return. He didn't respond, and I didn't wait. As I stepped out of the glass room, I passed Helen. Her face was pale. Her eyes flicked toward the manila folder Bryce still held like a live grenade. I didn't say goodbye, not out of cruelty, but because closure didn't require it. Back in the elevator, I looked at myself in the mirrored door. No anger, no tremble, just a quiet kind of power that came from knowing the game and rewriting the terms. By 7:04 a.m., my phone buzzed once, then again, until the vibrations became a rhythm I knew wasn't random. I didn't even check the screen. I walked to the window of my apartment, coffee untouched on the counter. Outside, the city felt unusually still, like it knew something was unraveling in the background. Then came the fourth vibration. It wasn't a call, it was a notification. Subject line, Notice of Termination, Westfield Global. And below it, another. Subject line, Termination of Services, Petrus Corp. 3 more followed within 15 minutes. Rex Medical, Coretrax, Solanova. Each one was direct, formal, and devastating. If you were sitting at a Solvex desk that morning, but I wasn't. Westfield's letter was the shortest. Trust is foundational. Elena Varela was ours. Petrus Corp's message was longer, citing unjustifiable restructuring decisions and a breach of alignment, but it was Coretrax's note that struck the sharpest chord. We don't partner with companies, we partner with people. Elena was our person. You've chosen otherwise. I felt a chill, not of fear, but of clarity. They weren't reacting to gossip. This was premeditated. Clients I had nurtured for 5 years didn't just leave. They aligned. I opened LinkedIn. Out of habit, the top post had over 9,300 reactions in 2 hours. It was from Olivia Langley, Director of Operations at Coretrax. She'd written, "The reason we trusted Solvex wasn't because of brand reputation or industry awards. It was because of one person who always picked up the phone at 2 a.m., flew cross-country without hesitation, and made our success her personal mission. Her name is Elena Varela. Wherever she goes next, we follow." Beneath the post were dozens of comments, some from mid-tier execs, some from rival firms, and some from Solvex employees, using burner accounts. One read, "Helen's name is already being whispered in blame meetings. Bryce looks like he aged 10 years overnight." Another simply said, "HR is burning out reprinting NDAs that no one's signing." I put my phone down and opened the laptop, not to respond, not to post, just to observe, because the moment had arrived. The unraveling without me lifting a single finger. Across a dozen Slack screenshots now floating through industry blogs. Whispers turned into patterns, internal tension, policy reversals, emergency board calls. And then came the financial report. Solvex stock had dipped 2.3% before opening. Insiders were already selling quietly. Blogs under pseudonyms, probably written by ex-staff, ran headlines like, "When power is transferred quietly, inside the Elena Varela effect." Solvex's empire was built on people, then they forgot the person. It was happening, not with lawsuits, not with a tell-all interview, but with precision silence. I received one final message at 9:15 a.m. It was from a junior employee I once mentored during a brutal Q4 restructuring. Ava Lynn. She had once cried in a stairwell after Helen blamed her for a client presentation error I had fixed in secret. Her message read, They're trying to rewrite the narrative. Elena, but we know the truth. I just wanted to say thank you for protecting us, for walking away with grace, and for reminding us that silence doesn't mean surrender. I closed the laptop, took a sip of now cold coffee, and smiled. Because some storms don't thunder, they whisper and still bring everything down. It was 8:01 a.m. on a Monday that didn't feel like a Monday. The office felt smaller, but lighter. The kind of place where people actually smiled at each other in the hallway. I stepped through the glass doors of Nexus into my new role as head of strategic partnerships. My name was already on the welcome board. No ceremony, no dramatic reintroductions, just a quiet nod from the receptionist and the soft hum of possibility. I sat down at my desk and opened my laptop. It was the first time in 5 years I didn't feel like I was preparing for battle. My fingers hovered above the keyboard as I typed my new email signature. Best. Elena Varela, Head of Strategic Partnerships. Elena.v@nexusgrowth.io at 8:43 a.m. My calendar nudged me gently. Zoom client launch. Kickoff Petros, Coretrax, Westfield, Solanova, RexMed. They were still with me. Maybe not with Solvex, but with me. But before that call, I had somewhere else to be. The auditorium at my son's school smelled like wood polish and construction paper. I took a seat in the 4th row just as the music started. My son scanned the audience with those curious eyes of his, and when he saw me, sitting there, present, he smiled, not because I was a director or a leader, just because, for once, I was there. That moment, that tiny smile, was worth every broken piece I'd left behind. By 9:45 a.m., I was back at my desk, 5 client windows lit up on Zoom, waiting for me to begin. But just before I clicked join, a new email slid into my inbox from helen.r@solvex.com. Subject, just. Sorry I opened it. I chose the wrong side. I thought I was saving myself, but I was just shrinking myself. You didn't deserve what we did. I hope you're building something incredible. I'm proud of you, even if I don't deserve to say that. I didn't reply. Not out of anger, just clarity. Sometimes silence says more than 1,000 words. I looked into the camera. My client smiled. I straightened my back. Good morning, I said, calm but firm. Let's build something better. And we did. There was no revenge, no retaliation, just a new beginning with the right people, at the right place, on my own terms. If this story meant something to you, pass it on. Maybe someone you know is sitting in that same boardroom, waiting for permission to walk away. They don't need revenge either, just the right moment and the courage to take it. Follow for more stories like this. And if you've ever been where I was, I see you. And your next chapter? It's waiting.